Hey everyone, how's it going? Forrest here, again with another installment of my complete analysis of all 389 Bach chorale harmonizations. Today we're looking at Ich ruf zu dir, Herr Jesu Christ, which translates to, I call to you, Lord Jesus Christ. All in all, pretty interesting chorale. I think the cadential structure is probably the most interesting part of this chorale. The keys that Bach explores is also kind of interesting too, just regarding the order in which he visits them. It's kind of not very intuitive. And also his use of 7 chords is also not 100% clear to me. I see a ton of them in here and it goes against my intuition. So maybe there's some like modal influence as well. And when I say 7 chords, I mean major 7 chords, like 7 chords that have a major triad as a base. Or flat 7 chords is probably a better way of articulating that rather than diminished 7 chords. But yeah, let's start out with the analysis. We start off on D major. We have, we cadence on G major, and then we have 2 flats in the key signature, so I reckon we're in the key of G minor, and we're starting off with a D major triad in first inversion. That's 5-6, D major over F sharp. And then we immediately go over to this really interesting figure here. We have this long pedal G in the bass, but the first chord we get is a G minor triad, which is our tonic triad in root position. And then we have some interesting chords going on. So in passing, we have E flat, F sharp, and A. But all over this G right here, there's definitely harmonic movement, but this G pedal in the bass kind of makes things muddier to analyze. I think this E is just a suspension underneath the upper voices, and in fact what we're looking for is this D right here, this F sharp, and this A. So we kind of have this idea of like a passing 7 or even like a passing 5. I guess technically speaking, it wouldn't be the E flat, that would be the non-chord tone, it would be the D actually, and I'd say that maybe we have like a passing 7 chord here. It's difficult to say for certain, but this B flat right here and this D are definitely non-chord tones with this F sharp that's present right here. But after we get this sort of, we're getting a pedal 7 chord. We get another G minor triad, G, D, B, G, and B flat. That's just another tonic triad. We then get some passing chords. We get A, D, F sharp, and A, and we can call that a passing 5-6-4. That is a D major triad in second inversion. And it's part of a passing figure, so it is operating the way we expect it to. We then have B flat, D, G, and G. That is a G minor triad in first inversion, so 1-6. And again, we have the same chord that we did on the previous and. We have A, D, F sharp, and A, which is another passing 6-4 chord. More specifically, a 5-6-4 chord, but it's going in the other direction. Then we have G, B flat, G, and B flat, G, D, G, and B flat. That's our tonic triad in root position. Then we have F sharp, D, that's a chord tone, G, and A. And maybe there's an argument there that there is a passing D major chord here in first inversion, but it's not fully spelled. I'll just point out the fact that we have a lot of the makings that we need for not even just D major but D7, because we have C. Then we have E flat, C, G, and C. That is a C minor triad in first inversion, C minor over E flat. Passing B flat in the tenor, C flat, A, C, and C. I think we still have some more passing tones. Really, I think the 16th note flourish that we have on the tenor is really just counterpoint, and this is just a big C minor chord. But we do get a doubling of the A flat here, which is kind of interesting. Maybe there is more to this than meets the eye. Let's see, A flat, E flat, and C. That would be a second inversion 2 chord, which is kind of like a 4/6 chord in the first place, so I'm not even going to bother analyzing it. I'm just going to say that this is counterpoint, and this is in fact a half cadence, so the fact that we're cadencing on D major makes sense. And to be even more specific, this is a Phrygian half cadence, because we have 4/6 going to 5. That half step motion going down towards the bass kind of has a modal sound to it. Phrygian. I'm always so bad at spelling Phrygian in my notes. I always add extra I's and Y's, but I got it right here. Alright, immediately afterwards, the end of the next phrase, we're getting ready for an imperfect authentic cadence in the key of G minor. So the next chord after the 5, we usually expect a 1. G, B flat, G, and D. There it is, in fact, our 1 chord. Passing tone in the melody. We then have A, C, F, and C. That's an F major triad, and maybe, yeah, you know, we'll go ahead and call that 7/6, but how I often add some secondary analysis, that might be 5/6 of 3, depending on how you analyze your chorales and how you factor flat 7 into the chorale. We're going to find a lot of flat 7s in this chorale, so this will take precedence unless there's a reason to think otherwise. But the chord that we're going to actually is not 3, at least I don't think it's, oh, actually maybe it is 3, we will see. So we go to B flat, F, and D, and on the next beat we have B flat, A flat, F, and C. Yeah, I was tempted to call this 5 of 6, but instead, no, these are just passing tones, and even though 5 of 6 might be implied, if we only had the A flat here, we have a C in the upper voice as well, which does more to the harmony and kind of buries the 7th, so we'll just call this a 3 chord in root position. Okay, then we have E flat, G, G, and B flat. That is a 6 chord. That is where 3 wants to go, or 5 of 6, which this would have been if we didn't have the C in the melody. Neighbor tone in the bass. Then we have E flat, A, F, and C. And depending on how you look at this, you might call this 5/4/2 of 3, because F is the dominant of B flat, which is our mediant, or 3. However, I'm inclined to say that this is actually a 7 chord, because it doesn't go where we expect. We get kind of a deceptive progression, because A doesn't go to B flat, A goes to B natural. So let's go ahead and call it 7/4/2, because it's an F dominant 7 chord over E flat. That would be our flat 7/7 chord in the key of G minor. Then we have some passing tones in the lower voices, as well as a passing tone in the melody, and that spells out D, B, F, and D. That's B diminished over D, which is 7/6 of 4, because B is the leading tone to C, and C is our subdominant, or our 4 in the key of G minor. And then we have C, C, E, and E, or more specifically C, C, E flat, and E flat, which is our 4 chord without a 5th. This passing B flat here kind of turns the chord into a 7 chord, but I don't really think it's super important to note. We then have C, C, F sharp, C, A, F sharp, and E flat. That is F sharp fully diminished 7th in second inversion, so 7/4/3, which is where 4 wants to go. 4 wants to go to 7, they just happen to keep a bass here, and then we cadence on G minor. However, he ends the phrase in an imperfect authentic cadence, which I think is really interesting, and imperfect authentic cadences are often accompanied with chords that you otherwise wouldn't see in a perfect authentic cadence, like root position dominant chords, and yeah, we see a lot of inverted chords in Bach's imperfect authentic cadences, which I think is pretty neat. Okay, so the next phrase, starting in the B section, we have a perfect authentic cadence in the key of B flat major. So we're looking for a modulation point, and I would be tempted to say the modulation happens as early as right here, right at the beginning of the phrase, but I don't hear the melody that way. It sounds like G minor really all the way until right before the cadence. So I'm going to analyze it in G minor up until that point. However, maybe I'll offer some analysis in the key of B flat when we get there. So we have B flat, D, F, and D. We could call this a 3-6 chord, but this A flat right here is kind of suspicious. I'm thinking that this might actually be 5 of E flat, which would be 6, more specifically 5-6 of 6, but you can call it 3-6-2. I think they're more or less implying the same thing. Got some counterpoint or some embellishing tones. We then have E flat, B, G, and G. That's our 6th chord, which is where the chord that preceded it wants to go. Then we get the B leaping up to E flat. Then we get F, D, A, and D. And depending on how you hear this, you might hear this chord as minor 5, right? Because we have F, D, A, and F. So that would be D minor in first inversion. Or you might hear this as F major, F, C, A, and E flat. So 7-7. And that's how I'm going to choose to analyze it, because this is not the first time we've seen 6 going to 7. We saw it in the previous phrase too. So that's what my line of thinking is. But you could call it minor 6-5, and you could even say that you've modulated here. But I think it would be kind of weird to modulate and then immediately tonicize the minor. So I think the modulation happens actually on the minor, because it really starts to take the shape of B flat around the cadence. So we have 7-7, then we have F sharp, D, A, and D, which is D major in first inversion, which would be 5-6 in our key. And then we get G, D, B flat, and B flat, which is our tonic triad in the key of G minor, which I coincidentally think is where we modulate to B flat, and that's our 6, because it immediately starts to sound like F or B flat afterwards because of the F naturals. So we get some passing tones in these voices as well, the tenor and the melody, and then we get F, F, B flat, and D. That's a B flat major triad in second inversion, so that'd be 1-6-4. We have some four non-chord tones here, so let's see if we have a chord we could analyze. We have E flat, G, C, and E flat. That would be C minor in second inversion, so sort of like a passing 2-6 chord. And then we have F, F, A, and C, which is a 5 chord. So we get this little passing 2-6 in the middle of the relationship between the two chords. That's really interesting. Passing 7th in the tenor, Bach likes to do that. And then we cadence on the tonic, B flat major. Okay, so now we are looking ahead to the next phrase, which is interestingly enough a deceptive cadence back in the key of G minor. So we're looking for a modulation point, and I think, with F sharp in the next measure, I think we're modulating straight away. So this B flat chord right here with the passing tone in the alto, even though it's just a respelling of the or a rotation of the voice of two of the voices and the bass leaping up an octave, I think this is where we modulate. So this B flat in the key of G minor is now 3, and then we could just analyze normally in the key of G minor again. So F sharp, A, and D. That's a D major triad in first inversion, so that would be 5-6, with a leaping up to the 7th here. We then have G, G, B flat, and D. There's our tonic triad. Passing tones in these two voices, the alto and the bass. We have E flat, C, G, and C. That is our 4 chord, C minor in first inversion, 4-6. Look at how Bach also incorporates the 7th after the 4-6 as well, but instead of getting a passing 7 chord, we actually get a passing 5 chord. We get E flat, D, F sharp, and C. Oh, interesting. We actually don't get a complete chord, but I will take note of the fact that Bach often, when he links chords together, more specifically when he links four chords going to the tonic, which is what we see on the next beat, right? We have D, E, G, and B flat. What am I talking about? That is not a 1 chord. That it's close to a 1 chord, but it's not. This E flat makes it difficult. But notice how there are tones that are related to the tonic. So we're linking the 4, and usually when we have the 4 and then the tonic is in another voice, he uses the leading tone somehow to bridge the 2 chords, and we have the makings of a passing 5/7 chord here, but we don't quite get it in its entirety. Instead, we get D, E flat, G, and B flat, and one might be tempted to call that a 6 chord or a 6/7 chord in third inversion. I think actually these are accented non-chord tones, and we're actually just getting ready for a cadence. So we have C, E flat, G, and A natural, which is our 2 chord. That'd be A half diminished over C, so that would be 2, 6, 5, and then we get D, D, G, and A. This G is probably a suspension, just like how this C is like a suspended 7th as well, over the bass, which is just a big 5 chord for this entire 2 beats is just a big 5 chord with counterpoint going on. And then we cadence on E flat major, E flat, B flat, G, and G. Interesting, he doubles the G rather than cadencing with E flat in one of the other voices. It's really deceptive because we have the F sharp going up to G and everything going down to G, but the bass goes up a step or a half step rather than going up the 4th. So it's cool to see a deceptive cadence in actual textbook form. And then we're looking ahead to the next cadence where, interestingly enough, we get a perfect authentic cadence in the key of F major, and we get this immediate jump from E flat to E natural, and I think this is just a direct modulation. I don't really think there's a pretty way of analyzing this via common chord. It just doesn't, it's not really super sensible. We just have E, C, G, and B flat. We could call that 4, 6, 5 and say that that's the common chord, but the progression from the previous key just doesn't make complete sense. It's not a normative chord progression, so E, C, G, and B flat. That would be C7 over E, which is 5, 6, 5 in the key of F major, and then we have F, C, F, and A with this 9/8 suspension over the bass. That's just a tonic triad. We then have B flat, D, F, and G, and of course Bach loves his 2, 6, 5 chords. That's G minor 7 over B flat, which is just 2, 6, 5. Then we have E here, D, and then we get E, C, C, E, and G, just a root position. Tonic triad, C major, with the passing 7th and the tenor. Again, Bach loves to do that in all of his chorales. You see this at least once in all of his chorales. And then we cadence on 1 F major. Okay, so moving ahead, we have a half cadence, or at least what I heard as a half cadence in the key of G minor, and what really makes it sound that way is the fact that we're cadencing on a G major chord. The fact that we get 2 consecutive G major chord cadences, one of them being a half cadence and one of them being I'll just write it here, a perfect authentic cadence is interesting. But we get E flats again, we get A flats. It's pretty clear that the harmony implies C minor, even though the melody doesn't. So I came to the conclusion that this is a half cadence, even though it really does sound like G major is being tonicized here. Maybe we're in G Phrygian, I don't know. I think there are lots of possibilities, but I ultimately called it a half cadence because the harmony implied a half cadence. So here we have F, C, F, and A, but with E flat. So I'm going to call this 5 of 4 because F is also the dominant of the subdominant, or 1 is the dominant of the subdominant as well. And these passing 7ths tell me a different story than just the fact that we're getting a repeat of the 1 chord. And then we get D, B flat, F, and B flat. That is our 4 chord in first inversion, and this is going to seem like kind of a weak analysis here because notice how we have the passing A flat again, and that would imply that this would be 7 of 7. But notice how 7 of flat 7 even. So I think right now on this beat right here, this is 4/6. but this is also our departure to the key of C minor, which is 5/6 of 3, which you might also hear as 7 in first inversion, because B flat is our 7 chord in the key of C minor, but also with this passing 7th going on, I just hear it that way. So it's a very interesting chord to modulate through, but with this A flat, I feel like we've moved into C minor. It might even be worthwhile to say that this F right here might be, 4/6/5 in the key of C minor, or 5 of, what would it be in the key of C minor? It'd be 5 of 7. Yeah, 5 of 7 just is not something you see enough to really use a normative analysis on it. So this is how I made sense of it. I think there are other possible analyses as well. It might not even be in the key of C minor, I don't know. But this is where I'm talking about the fact that we're getting the use of 7 chords very liberally. And when I say 7 chords, I mean 7 major, flat 7 chords. So we have, on the next beat, we have E flat, G, E flat, and B flat, which is the 3, right? So this B flat is going where we expect, and that's great. That's exactly what we wanted it to do. At least we could kind of make sense of the harmony. So that B flat's actually a chord tone. We have a couple of non-chord tones in the alto and in the bass. We have D, B flat, F, and B flat, and maybe we could say there is sort of a passing 7/6 going on here, because 3 going to 7/6, it's not the strongest progression, but we do see it from time to time. And it's usually to diminish 7th, at least I think it's usually to diminish 7th. But that being said, that's, there's totally room for analysis there that's happening, especially because of the fact that we have C minor on the next beat, which is our tonic triad. And if anything, that's where 7 wants to, that's one of the destinations that 7 wants to go, either 3 or to 1. So we kind of have a transitive progression here. 7 usually wanting to go to 3. In this case, it's going in reverse, and then 7 now going to 1. It wouldn't be uncommon for this progression to be the retrograde, right? 1, 7, 3, rather than 3, 7, 1. But Bach was a numbers man. We then have chord tone G, chord tone E flat, non-chord tone B flat, but a passing 7th. So it kind of turns the chord into a passing 7 chord, but no need to analyze that, just we can point it out. Then we have A flat, C, G, and C. I reckon this G is an accented non-chord tone, and it's this G that turns this into a 4/6 chord. And then we cadence on 5. Another Phrygian half cadence. Sorry, I always have to remind myself how to spell it. What comes first, the Y or the R? I usually spell it as Phrygian as opposed to Phrygian. They sound similar enough. So immediately after the 5 chord, we do get C minor with the passing 7th and the tenor, and I think that we've immediately at this point modulated to G minor. This entire melody sounded very G minor or B flat like to me, so the fact that I analyzed this in the key of C minor was already sort of a reconciliation of me prioritizing the harmony over the melody. But yeah, we'll go ahead and just call this 4 in the key of G minor, because C is the subdominant in the key of G minor as well. And then we immediately get D, A, G, and D, but it's this F sharp that's actually the chord tone, which just makes this a root position 5 chord. And then we get some interesting chords in anticipation for the cadence, because we have just ascending melodic minor from raised 6th to 3. So it's an interesting sort of fragment of the, to 5, almost an entire scale. We actually go even more than the length of the scale if you include the note at the beginning of the phrase. But here we have E natural, G, G, and C. That's, we know that 5 often goes to 4/6. We could call this C, which would be 5 of 7, but we really don't see 5 of 7 enough. It's not a chord that really needs to be tonicized. But we can call this 4/6/5. We know that 4/6/5 often goes to 7 or to 5, and I think it does go to 5. It goes to F sharp, D, A, and C. Yeah, that would be a 5-6-5 chord. So we have parallel first inversion 7th chords going on, and that usually goes to 1, G, D, G, and B flat, our tonic triad. We have some more non-chord tones. We have F sharp, we have A, and we have D. That's another passing chord, a passing 5-6-4 chord again, just like how we saw in this section over here. So I don't think it's I think this is worth analyzing. Then we have B flat, D, G, and G. That is a G minor triad in first inversion, which is 1-6. Then we have C, E flat, A, and G. And as we're getting ready for the cadence, it makes sense for us to see a 2 chord in first inversion. So that would be A minor 7 flat 5 over C, which would just be a 2-6-5 chord in the key of G minor. And then we have D, D, G, and B flat. That is our second inversion tonic triad, 1-6-4. We then get the step down motion in the tonic voices, or in the 1 and the 3 step down to the 3 and the 5 of the G chord, 1-6-4 to 5. And like in many of Bach's minor chorales, we cadence on 5. Sorry, we cadence on 1 major, where the third is raised, called a Picardy third. So yeah, really interesting chorale. Kind of shaky analysis. You know, I think this the analysis is totally valid. There are some things that I think are arguable, where you might take one stance over another. But all in all, I think the chorale had some really beautiful moments in it that were really a byproduct of the fact that Bach really treated this chorale more like a piece of counterpoint rather than a purely homorhythmic piece. We get passing 7 chords a lot. We get a lot of fluctuation between the natural 7th and the raised 7th, which makes the texture, from an analysis standpoint, somewhat difficult to analyze, but I think we were able to make it through with quite a bit of certainty. I mean, the vast majority of the chorale I felt very confident analyzing. Just some of these 7 chords, 3 going to 7, 6 going to 1, that's an unusual progression. This modulation to C minor is kind of interesting as well. But all in all, I think the analysis was semi-straightforward. It was a little bit curvy forward. And that's okay, because chorales like these challenge my analytical brain to look at them and break my expectations. But we do have a lot of normal progressions in here. They're just surrounded by a lot of passing chords and irregular harmonic rhythm, which quickly oscillates between 8th note and quarter note, and really just a byproduct of the counterpoint. When you have more activity and more rhythmic interest in the different sections, it makes it difficult to have a consistent harmonic rhythm. We also have a direct modulation, which is relatively uncommon in my analyses, but sometimes they appear. Sometimes there's just not really an elegant way to analyze via a common chord, or sometimes it just doesn't sound like it's a common chord. So, that being said, thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you so much for supporting the channel. I check my YouTube studio every couple of days, or it's not even really every couple of days, it's really just like once a week, and I saw that I have 18 subscribers. That's so wild to me that I have 18 subscribers. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I really hope you're enjoying the videos if you are watching them with regularity, and I'm really looking forward to producing more for you all. So yeah, it's a daily grind, and I am looking forward to it. So that being said, thank you so much again for watching the video. I look forward to tomorrow's analysis, and I hope you take care.